Season 3 of Mob Psycho 100 began, and I wanted to talk about the first episode. I figured most people clicking on a video on the third season will know what it's about, but just in case, the premise is simple. We follow a middle school student who works part-time as a psychic or esper.
So after the salt, you're sending in a middle schooler? Get your...
Who exorcises spirits under his con artist mentor.
If I exorcise the spirit, I'm sure Hanako's face will return to normal too.
There's nothing wrong with her face, you moron!
This is my favorite anime in recent history, and since I haven't spoken about it before, I'll give my very brief thoughts on the first two seasons. I thought season 1 was close to perfection. I really enjoyed the structure of the show, where Mob and his boss Reigen go on exciting and humorous episodic adventures for the first half of the season, and in the meantime we get acquainted with the supporting cast. I wouldn't call it necessarily slow, but it definitely does take its time to introduce the world and characters. But by the second half, it kicks into high gear when Claw, a criminal organization, starts kidnapping child espers. Much like One Punch Man, the first season doesn't play around with the drama of whether or not our hero will be victorious. We learn early on Mob is absurdly powerful, so the drama is much more concerned about Mob's self-control, his relationships, and his personal goals. You could watch the first season in isolation, and I think most would be satisfied with just that, though it does leave a story thread open with the Claw organization still around, which this second season picks up. Season 1 weaves the character-based episodes with the main plot with mastery. However, Season 2 does not succeed as well. The one-off episodes are still great, but the main plot revolving around Claw drags the show down with cheap drama such as tricking the audience with character deaths, or leaning into the idea that Mob's powers are limited, but does nothing clever to overcome it. He just happens to be powerful enough, just enough. Which they mostly avoided in the first season, so that's a shame. So, not as good, but if anyone were to ask what my top 5 episodes of the series were, it would be mostly the character-based episodes of Season 2. It's a mixed bag overall. Beyond the anime, I have no opinion of the manga because I haven't read it yet, other than looking up that Seasons 1 and 2 covered 92 of the 101 chapters of the manga, which signaled to me that the third season would definitely be the finale. Speaking of which, let's finally get to talking about Season 3, Episode 1. We are reintroduced to a world filled with evil spirits and psychics, before diving into the new OP, which doesn't start off as bombastic as the first two, but slowly gets there. I always try to read into the tone of the OP to see if it will reflect the tone of the arc or season, but I'll give it a few more episodes to see if that's the case. As far as the visuals go, I'll probably understand 6 months from now when I see the opening again and go, oh!
I understood that reference.
The premise of the episode is that Mob is struggling to fill out his career path survey, and for those who've ever had difficulty planning out what kind of career you wanted in the future, this episode will definitely strike a chord. There's this sort of envy in the air, as most of the cast have a clear goal they want to reach, whereas Mob is entirely clueless, staring at a sheet of paper, or is being easily influenced by either a girl he likes or his mentor for a moment, to make you think he might go one way just to second guess himself later. Meanwhile, Reigen continues to prove why he's the best character in the show. Whether he's doing really mundane things like fixing an antique in grandiose fashion, or giving his staff prep talks, or fending off evil spirits despite having zero spiritual abilities, I find it difficult not to crack a smile when he's on screen. But I did mention staff, and Reigen has hired another real Esper, Serizawa. This was Suzuki's bodyguard with the umbrella from the prior season.
People are going to try to manipulate you because of your lack of self-confidence. Make sure you don't let them.
He's completely manipulated by Reigen, and he just tries to do his best to impress, which makes him just instantly likable. The trio investigate a man who believes he's possessed by a spirit. On first impression, it just seems like he's a huge loser experiencing a real late midlife crisis. He doesn't take care of himself physically, he's unhygienic, he can't hold on to a part-time job, he's obsessing over his ex, he's a hoarder, no one wants anything to do with him, including his relatives, and he goes on how he wasted 50 years of his life on Earth. You might be led to believe The gag is that there is no evil spirit. However, it does reveal itself and spreads its gases, making everyone lethargic, which was really evil, sinister energy in there. That was real Persona 4, like, final boss energy right there. Though Mob and Serizawa easily vanquish it, the words from the old man kind of both get them down, and it's hard for either of them to reconcile with. Even the career path storyline comes to an ambiguous end as Mob's teacher tells him to just think of a clear goal in high school during his teen years. Otherwise, it may be difficult to cut a path for himself later on. Now would be a good time to bring up a consistent character trait of Mob that makes his decision significantly harder, and it isn't mentioned directly in the episode. There's the obvious option for Mob. He could just work as a full-time Esper, and Reigen even offers it to him. However, since the first season, he hasn't shown any interest in it, since it's only something he's good at, but doesn't challenge or fulfill him.
I've never been the most athletic guy. I've always relied on my psychic powers for everything.
And in a conversation with Misato, we get briefly reminded of that when he brings up joining the Body Improvement Club, because he didn't want to coast and take the easy route, which is outright paralleled with the Possessed Man's lines.
I've gone with the flow and taken the easy way out at every turn.
So you mean you want to be popular?
No.
It's tied up nicely with the ending scene, where Mob mentions it's comfortable at the office, but he wants more. It's great to see the work they put into Mob's character. While I would hope they would do more with the plot point, it's fine as is even if they don't revisit it. Also, got to give some appreciation to Reigen's characterization. During the spirit's attack on the townspeople, he seems to be the least affected, and you can read into that. Maybe it's because he has a strong sense of self, let's say. He explains later in the episode that while he never knew what he wanted to do for a living, he eventually found what he enjoyed after quitting his job, starting up his own business, and meeting Mob. Moving on to the final thread, the show is hinting at Dimple going back to his cult leader ways. It's kind of funny because he gets reminded of it when Mob is pondering about his career path, and Dimple's like, oh shit, that's right. Oh my goodness, yeah, I was like an evil cult leader. Whatever his plans are, it's going to involve the cult building around the giant broccoli created after the battle in Season 2. Mob Psycho does what it's great at with these character-centric episodes. Great episode and a great start to the third season. That's all for now, though.
Getting hyped for Season 3? An excellent decision.